Hi, Longview. I'm Jennifer Walker, and I am here with Jerry Beth Mailer, Irma Hudson, and Kathy Copeland. And today we are going to be talking about a wonderful ministry to the community as well as to our church called the Broken Vessels Ministry. And so Jerry Beth is the leader of this ministry, and she's been doing this a very long time. So Jerry Beth, tell us, what is this ministry and how did it come about?
This ministry came about as a result of our losing our son. He was 18 years old and killed in a head-on collision with an 18-wheeler. And so a friend of mine had lost her son just 2 years prior to that and called me one day and suggested that I try a grief support ministry out in East Memphis that she had been to. And so I did that, and I went back several times. They met twice a year and for several weeks at a time, and I went back for several times. And then they asked me if I would consider starting a ministry out in this area because there was nothing like it and in this community. And so I agreed to do that. Went talk with the pastor and set all that up. And it just meant so much to me having gone, and I knew that it would mean a lot to other people. And as a result, we have had numerous people come through in all these years. So it's just been a good ministry for us.
Now, it's called Broken Vessels, but is that what you call it here, or is that what you went to? Is that a name?
That is the name that I had really I prayed about a name before I ever started the group, and a verse and everything for God to give me. And so Broken Vessels is what came out of that prayer request, and he led me to the Jeremiah verse of the potter and the clay, and how the potter was working with the pot and it became marred, and he reshaped it and made it. And so the point of that is that there's hope for people when we are in grief like that. We feel like the world has come to an end and there's not going to be anything else for us. And but you can be useful again. And so that was what led to that.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story. So tell me, what kind of ages go to this ministry?
It's for adults.
Okay.
We don't have any area for children. I have been asked that several times through the years, but we do not. It is strictly for adults, who have lost a parent, a child, a spouse, or any other relationship, whether it be your best friend, your grandparents, whatever goes into that fourth group. And so we have something for all adult ages.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I would like to hear from you all. Kathy, tell us how this ministry has made an impact on you, and maybe when you started coming and what brought you there. And
gosh, I can't remember if I was part of your first group or not, but one of your early groups. Broken Vessels, my opinion, is a very perfect title for this group, because when you experience a devastating loss, for us, it was the loss of our 10-year-old son. And he was our only child. So overnight, our lives changed dramatically. And there's nothing in life that really prepares you for a loss that devastating. So started coming to the group, and I teased Jerry Beth because I kept coming.
yeah.
Because every year I was in a bit of a different place. So that's a little bit
And
about...
have you been going to a group like this ever since?
Not ever since. Gosh, how many years, Jerry Beth, did I attend?
Several, off and on, but you brought people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you encouraged
Absolutely, because it does give you hope. When you can look at people who have walked through devastating loss and you see that, wow, they've made it through. They've, I won't say overcome, because I don't know that you truly ever get over it, but you can live with it. And there's hope. There's hope in that. Anyway, Irma, you want to tell a little bit about yours?
I will. In September of 2019, my husband passed away. We had been married just shy of 55 years. And he had been sick for 7 years. And so it's not that I wasn't expecting it, but when it does happen, you're lost and displaced and alone, and you really don't know what to do with yourself. And I think he had been gone about 2 weeks, and my friend, Patty Pond, who is a part of this ministry, called me and asked me, was I ready to come to grief support, which would start up in about another 2 weeks. And I said, Patty, I don't know if I am or not, because I don't really even know where I am right now, but I'm going to try. And hopefully it will encourage me or help me in some way. And so I came, and I gleaned enough out of each session and the group time that we had to be encouraged. I felt love. I felt it was a safe place to be ministered to and to share my story and to realize there are other people just like me that have been through this and they're going through this and they've gotten through this. And so it just ministered to me, it encouraged me, and just gave me hope that I was going to be in a better place. It just might take a while. And I did come back 3 additional times to the sessions and brought friends with me, and every time it ministered to me in a different way.
Because you were in a different
I was in a different
with
place.
Your grief. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I know, I don't know, but I imagine that is a huge blessing together with other people that are going through the same thing, because your friends that haven't experienced that, they love you. I know they want to walk with you and help you, but they don't know, do they?
Absolutely not. The speakers also help me.
Yeah, tell us about it. Tell us about what happens in a group meeting.
Well, she has, I don't know, you want me to tell it, Terry?
Please do. Yes, you know.
She has a different speaker, and a lot of them are psychologists who are well versed and experienced in the grief process. And it is a journey. It is not a 12-step and you're automatically better. So each week she has someone come, and that's where you learn. Because what you're experiencing for the first time. Most of us have. And these professionals kind of help us understand what to expect, how to deal with it. And then we break off into our small group where we're with people that are sharing the same journey and a similar loss.
So like if you've lost a child, you're in a small group with other people that have lost children.
And each group is led by one who's had that same loss.
Okay.
I lead the loss of child group.
Okay.
Patty leads the loss of spouse group. She could as well lead the loss of child too, but she leads the spouse group. Dana Chisholm takes the parent group, and then Marla Smollett, who is one that went through the group from the beginning, I think. It seemed like she was the very first group, and she was in church with me, and she leads the fourth group. And so
who goes into the fourth group?
That's those relationships, anything other than parent, spouse, or child.
Okay.
And go into that fourth group. But the speakers, they're all Christian psychologists and counselors, as Kathy said, and they'll be the first to tell you they have not had the experience that we have as far as loss. Some of them have lost a parent, but not have lost a spouse or child or anything. But they will say, y'all are the ones we learn from hearing y'all. And
is there a workbook or weekly assignments or anything required of the participants?
No, there's not any workbook or anything like that. You just need to come, and that's a lot of times that's the hardest thing you'll do all week is just to go. I know the first time I went to a group, I cried all the way home and said, I just can't do this. I cannot do this, but every week I was just drawn back to that group, because I was with people that understood what I was going through. I was in that small group of parents that had lost a child, and they understood that. And I don't know what it's like to lose a spouse. I've not lost mine, and I can't lead that group, but I can lead, mine. I could lead the parent group, but so anyway, it's just all you need to do is just come. There's no cost, and it is open to the community. And we've had people come from Oxford before that would drive up. I remember a couple that came up some years ago that drove up every single week from Oxford, just for that grief support ministry.
That shows
So,
how important that is and how
does,
needed
yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I know you had said they had a group from West Memphis, Arkansas, and somewhere
Marion,
else too. Yeah, Marion,
yeah,
Arkansas.
same
So the exciting thing also, we're promoting this for Longview Heights, but these ladies actually attend LaBelle Haven, and they are starting their own support group, grief support group. So are you all going to call it Broken Vessels as well?
No, we're not. That's Jerry Beth's name.
Okay.
So at this point, it's just grief support ministry.
Okay.
Perhaps God will give us a name as well.
I'm sure He will.
And of course, we have a lot of people in our church who especially have lost spouses. Maybe not so many that have lost children, though there are a few, but everyone's lost someone. And everyone's different. So the way you work through grief is different, and your need is different. So we're going to try to offer an avenue for everyone to be able to participate in that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I asked them to be prepared to share with us just a piece of advice that they have learned through walking through grief, and what they would share with you if you were in the midst of grieving the loss of someone right now. So, Jerry Beth, do you want to start us?
Well, for me, I think if I could just say, give one bit of advice to anybody, is don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect more from yourself than you're able to give. It's a hard journey. I mean, it really is. But I well remember when I finally just turned a corner and I knew, that I could get through this. I was going to get through this. God had been very, very faithful through that time, and so it was. That would be my thing. It's just don't be so hard on yourself, and just allow Him to do what He needs to do in that healing process. So,
Okay, thank you, Miss Irma. How about you?
Working through grief is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And for every person, it's different. The timetable's different. And I think you have to allow yourself time to grieve. And I think just to come to the support group and be encouraged, let people love on you because you need that. It's a safe place where you can express your feelings, your fears, your apprehensions about the future, and where people can encourage you, and they pray with you. Scripture is used, of course, a lot because we are faith-based. And just the reminder that the Lord is with us and that He'll see us through this and that we have hope in the end,
It's beautiful.
which has really encouraged me.
Thank you. What about you, Kathy?
I think everybody grieves differently. Even though we can experience the exact same loss, the exact same experience, but our grief journey, it can be very different. And gosh, we've had people in our groups very angry, bitter. Some draw closer to the Lord, and some have a very difficult time understanding how the Lord could allow something like this to happen. So that's the thing. I think goes back to Jerry Beth. Be kind to yourself, and but just realize everyone is different. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing and for this ministry, and God bless you all in your new ministry at LaBelle Haven. And we have details about when the next session of our Longview Heights ministry, Broken Vessels, will be starting up, and so we will be sharing that with you. Anything else you want to tell about it?
I don't know of anything. No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for listening. And if you are in need of a grief ministry, I pray that you will take advantage of what the Lord has provided here through men and women. So it's not just women, even though we're women sitting here, but men and women who have been through down this journey and have found that God is still faithful, even in the midst of some of the deepest sorrows. So, Miss Jerry Beth, why is it only 6 to 7 weeks long rather than a consistent program like a AA or a 12-step program that's just constantly meeting.
Right, because you need some time away from the speakers. You need some time away from the group to just kind of work through things on your own. Take some time for yourself and just kind of work through it, because it is slow. You'll take 3 steps forward and 2 back, and it's a constant back and forth kind of thing. And but another thing that I can tell you is that I get calls all the time from people that will say, I didn't think I needed a grief support group. I thought I was doing okay. I seemed like I was doing really well. And I'll say, at what point are you at right now? How long has it been since your loss? And it will be in the 5 to 6 month period every single time. I don't know why it takes that long for it to really hit. And I think to really, the shock of it all is in the beginning, but for it to really, I call it the reality of the finalities, what I've kind of termed it as, and that's about when it hits, and that's when they really start coming, and they're but I like to allow that 6 month period of time between the spring and the fall, just simply, as I said, to give time to just kind of work through. The holidays, you have that period of time in there. The summertime is not the best time. People are going and so that's not really the best time. So, that's what the group before me did, and that's what I did, and so it just seemed to be a good thing.
So you meet in the fall, and then there's months in between, and then you meet again for 6 to 6
No, we
weeks.
We
in the spring.
go October. We'll go 6 weeks. We start October 5th through the time in November for 6 weeks, and then we will start back the first Wednesday in April.
Okay.
So and go the same process again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you about a time, we had a big snowstorm. My husband was in Nashville working. He couldn't get home. I was there by myself for this whole thing. And I mean, we were iced in. And I was working on, it was a women's ministry Bible study at Longview. I was working at Longview at that time, back in those early years. And I was sitting there working through it, and I thought in the beginning that I probably didn't need this study. It was breaking free was what it was, and I thought, I don't need this. This is probably for drug addicts and alcoholics and all kind of things that need to break through these habits, and things. And of course, it was nothing like that. I went on and did it anyway, and I was so thankful that I did, because as I sat there at home by myself all those days, I just continued to work ahead. And when I did, I realized what I had done was, I remember Brother Wayne coming in my office one day, and he said, Jerry Beth, this was before I started the study. He said, Jerry Beth, how are you getting through things right now? And I said, this goes back to kind of Kathy, is I don't expect God to do anything good, and so that way I'm not disappointed when he doesn't. And he just said, oh, okay. Well, I knew he went home to Miss Susan, and they were probably on their knees, praying for the next so many months. And so anyway, I started that study briefly after that, and was working through it, and realized what was it was talked about bondage, and I realized that's exactly where I was. I was in bondage to the fact that I was not expecting anything good to happen, nothing. And that way I wasn't disappointed. If nothing good happened, that's okay.
You were protecting yourself.
I was protecting. It was my defense.
Yes.
It was my defense. And so that was a huge thing for me, to understand that yes, God is going to do many good things, and He wants to do many good things, but you've got to get through this, and it's hard, and it is hard. So anyway,
I even had family members ask me, are you sure you want to, when I was leading a group, are you sure you want to do that? Doesn't it just keep opening up that hurt? And you go through this over and over again. And I said, who better than me to understand the devastation and I hate to say it, desperation
exactly
of losing a child or a husband or
whatever. And who will you listen to more than someone who's been there, that understands exactly what you're going through? Because I remember when some teachers at school lost their children, and one son was murdered, and one daughter was killed in a car accident. And those two teachers were some of the very first two to come to my door when that all happened. And because they knew, and they didn't have to say anything. I could look at them and go, I know y'all know. Y'all know exactly. And I've had people say that to me, but it's just it's a hard way, a hard walk and all, but you can get through it, and that's the reason I've just continued doing this. And people, that's the same thing with Kathy. People saying, "Are you not just continuing on in this grief?" No, it actually is very healing. And any of the facilitators of the group will tell you that it has been more beneficial to them maybe than the people that come, just because you're helping. You are taking what God has allowed in your life and what He has walked through in your life, and you're taking it and helping somebody else with it.
And you're seeing redemption in that process rather than just
so it's
loss.
Very healing.
And it's funny, you talked about the workbook. The first grief group I went to was a workbook, and I can't remember even what it was called. I was the only person there. My friend went with me, and it was two older gentlemen that led it. And I was just devastated. All I could do is cry. My friend was answering all the questions for me because all I could do is cry and cry and cry. And I felt sorry for these two gentlemen because they had never experienced a loss like that.
Oh, they were just leading it.
They were.
To be helpful.
They were.
Did not have the experience.
And I know every week they hoped I didn't come back.
And probably you were not in a mental state to even do a workbook at the time, were you?
No.
I'm glad that you all don't require that of people in this.
Right. Broken Vessels will start back on Wednesday, October the 4th. We will go each week on Wednesday night from 6:30 until 8 o'clock through November the 8th. And then we'll start back in the spring. But each week we will have a speaker to come in, a Christian psychologist or counselor, to speak to the large group, and then we'll break up into small groups according to your loss. And each of those small groups will be led by a facilitator who has had that same loss. So we invite anybody to come. You do not have to be a member. There's no cost or anything involved in that. If you find yourself in that time of loss of a loved one, someone that's very dear to you, and that you need our help or the help of the group, I would encourage you to take part in it and come. I understand how hard it is. I know full well how hard it is to come that first night, but I would encourage you to give it a try and see if it will help you.
Okay, so tell us the times.
6:30 until 8 o'clock.
Okay, and where do you meet?
We meet upstairs in the C building at Longview Heights Baptist Church.
Okay.
And we will be upstairs over the office area.
Okay, and then there is childcare provided if you need it. So you just need to let the church know that you need childcare for that, and that will be taken care of as well. Yeah. There is no cost.
Right.
And no materials to have to go through. You just come and be a part, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and so for more information on this and to watch the conversation that we had, it was so good. To watch that conversation, you can check media.longview.church and find that conversation there and find out more about Broken Vessels Ministry, this grief support group. Hope you'll take advantage of that if you need it, or if you know someone who needs it, please pass this information on to them.